Aw, man, we're becoming Mexicans with this one, because we're jumping the border. Over to Bordertown. Yes, I stole the joke from Alice Mark. Shut up. It was like 6 or 7 years ago. Joke not, very much not intended. Bordertown is weird. It's a show I grew up with back on Netflix, back when it was on Netflix. So I am very aware of it and all that, but I know watching it as a kid is not a shared experience because it was only a 13 episode season, the one season. So, however, I don't really want to explain it, so I'll let Bimmy explain this one for me. Bimmy, what the hell was a border town? Oh, yes, so glad you let me handle this one, Z-Man. Border Town is about a town named Border. You were right on the bed as I watched all of this shit. How the hell are you acting like this? So, yeah, you better run. Fine, I'll explain that to. Border Town is about a town called Mexifornia. That's right. It's not really called. It's not really. The town isn't called Border Town. I know. I'm just as shocked as you. Border Town stars two families. Bud's family, Bud being a border patrol agent, pretty much trying to keep illegals out and all that. And he has his white trash family. And then Ernesto, a Mexican who actually did immigrate here properly and all that. So, and he and his family is, well, nicer, I guess. Like, Ernesto himself is very well off. So, pretty much, it's Homer and Ned from The Simpsons. If that specific dynamic was like the main part of the show, and instead of being religious, Ned was just Mexican. That's pretty much the best way to describe what Border Town is, without to someone who's never even seen the show. However, I have two questions with this one. One, did it deserve only getting one season, or is it an underrated gem that really deserved more? And two, is it the fact that I watched it as a kid, will that really change how I would view it compared to most people? There's only one way to find out. I mean, I already know these answers, but you don't, you silly goose. Or at least you don't know yet until, this live stream is finished and then it's all spoiled for you. You could just Google, what does Z-Man think of Border Town? Do people do that before, like, reviewers? Do they just type down, do they just Google what's their opinion on this thing? How much of a lazy show do you have to be to even do that? Getting sidetracked to talk about the show. 1. The engagement. When JC comes back from college, he tries to marry Becky, but Bud doesn't approve. Okay, so to quickly let you know, JC is Ernesto's nephew, but pretty much treats him like a son, and Becky is Bud's adult daughter. That we all good? Yeah, we all good. Episode is a 3 out of 5. This episode is a very good introduction to Bordertown. I mean, considering this episode 1 of 13, I mean, it's not like this isn't like a Family Guy or a Simpsons or even a South Park where the style changed as the show goes along. So pretty much what you see in episode 1 is what you see for the rest of the show. And what you need to know about the average Bordertown episode is it is very ADHD. Take like season 11 or 12 of Family Guy, just remove the cutaways and fill it with more just random one-off jokes. As an example, in the scene at dinner when Bud's wife Janice explains that JC and Becky are going to get married, Bud's head explodes and their pet pig, who we don't think we ever see after this episode, ends up eating it. Hell, later in that same episode, this janitor who works at the Border Patrol is like, hey, your head exploded. No, that was just a joke. So pretty much, depending on like the scene and all that, a good majority of Border Town is just spent on random jokes where characters could just like have heads explode and all that crap. And literally next scene, we're all fine. It's one of those kinds of shows in terms of comedy. The plot itself, though, is, I mean, kind of generic enough. I mean, JC is just this liberal douche who acts like he knows what he's talking about, pretty much just like Brian Griffin. And Becky is also kind of just like a Meg, very ugly and all that. And I know I'm comparing the show a lot to Family Guy, and I'm pretty sure that that's one of the main criticisms people had at the time, that it was kind of just like Family Guy. And well, back in the day, I tried to like defend it from that. Looking back at it, yeah, it gives Family Guy energy, even just by describing the characters. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. I mean, hell, Family Guy just copied The Simpsons after the end of the day, and Simpsons copied Flintstones, copied Honeymooners. So that's just kind of how this type of thing works. There's nothing truly original under the sun, as they say. But there's a point to where it stops feeling like we're just kind of taking inspiration, and more so that we're kind of just using the templates from this other popular Fox show for this Fox show. Again, it's hard to describe the actual episode because, again, a lot of it is just random jokes. And given the fact that I give this a 3, most of them didn't land. Well, I guess I should say it was kind of a mixed bag. Some jokes were funny enough, I guess. Like a Bud's 24-year-old son Sanford having his car in the driveway, but it's just like a toy car. Because Sanford's just like a loser, I guess. No one could just be a cool guy in the show. So there are good jokes in this episode. It's just that all in all, the episode, it just wasn't funny enough for me to ever say I'd want to go back to it. And again, the plot felt almost non-existent. By the end, Becky and JC decide not to get married, so they're just kind of an adult couple. Good for them, I guess. So, 2, border wall. When Bud finds a 10K, he uses it to help build a border wall. However, this causes him to get fired from his job. This is another 3 out of 5. The plot of this episode is very start and stop, I'd say, if I'm using that term correctly, which I'm not fully sure I am, but I'm pretty sure I am. Let me know in the comments if I'm like getting that messed up or anything. Because it starts with Bud finding the money. Then after a quick court scene of deciding what to do with the money, they decide to build a border wall. And then when they do build the border wall, it almost kind of stops being about the border wall, and instead it just kind of turns into Bud getting fired, and for a brief moment he works with Ernesto, and then that kind of just stops, and he just goes to and then he ends up smuggling Mexicans in, kind of the exact opposite of his regular job. And then his old boss Steve finds out, and then they just work together again. See what I mean? By the final third, you barely even remember the episode was even called Border Wall, or was even about a border wall. It's really more of the set piece, even more so than the last episode. There's really not much of a plot here. Just hey, maybe the plot here is more like an excuse to tell whatever type of random jokes we want. And much like last episode, some of them do work, but a lot of them also kind of just feel like random non sequiturs. That's a good way to describe Bordertown, actually. It's a show of random non sequiturs. I guess there's a B plot with JC and Becky trying to get rid of the border wall, but nothing really comes of it, so I don't really see why it was even in the episode other than just giving them something to do. Well, overall, episode was middle of the road. It's fine. Eventually, but everything was back to normal, and the border wall is gone because the status quo show, and I guess Bud Guy keeps working at the Border Patrol. Funny Bud Buckwald guy got to work at the Border Patrol, and he's wearing a Hello Kitty shirt because he likes Hello Kitty. He'll get along great with Butters as they play Hello Kitty Island Adventure. What am I even talking about at this point? I don't know. I'm tired, fam. 3, Mega Church. Bud is forced to get Ernesto at his church. Meanwhile, JC discovers Becky does youth ministry. 3 out of 5. Gonna barely spend time on this one. It's pretty much just making fun of religion the whole episode. The main pastor, I think, is how you say that correctly, because I've never really been to a formal church ceremony. The very times I've been to church has been for like a fancy events and all that, so I can't really say I know the casual experience. But yeah, pretty much just Bud's church is a scam, but Bud, being the dummy that he is, doesn't question it. And Ernesto's Mexican church is actually care more about the Lord and all that, and they ain't just faking it in. But now Bud has to get Ernesto to his church because Ernesto's good at like giving them the money, and we've got to have money. The JC and Becky plot doesn't really go anywhere. It's just Becky finding out JC's an atheist. and discovering why he's an atheist and all that. This is where we find out that JC's parents passed away at a very young age. When JC was at a very young age, God, imagine if a woman gave birth when she was like a little kid. And so JC's kind of lives with them, and they pretty much treat him like a son. So I guess that's fine. Again, the episode has the same problems as the other episodes, hence the same rating. 4. High school football. Bud uses an illegal Mexican to win high school football games. 3 out of 5. I'm sorry, I don't care. If anything, this is probably the weakest one so far because Bud is kind of just a douchebag in this episode. Like, I know these dumb fatherly characters like Homer Simpson and Peter Griffin, I know being a bit of a dick is like part of like the stereotype, or at least the essence of these characters. Like, you're kind of just meant to do that. But seriously, Bud, it gets to the point where by this point especially, I just stop caring about Bud because he's not a likable dude. He's already clearly accidentally challenged, and this episode just makes things worse because he actively he bullies the high school football coach, who we see in other episodes is meant to be his friend. So, but then when Bud ends up becoming the coach, he ends up being a hypocrite and uses an illegal Mexican high schooler because he needs to win the football game, otherwise he'll be the one who gets dead. And at the end of the episode, when he gives the high school football coach's job back, Bud just blames him for the entire events of the episode. Like, I know it's meant to be a joke and everything. We're not supposed to take it seriously, but I don't care. Why would I want to watch a show about this dude who's just a complete asshole to everyone? It's not even in a funny Eric Cartman or Roger Smith or It's Always Sunny way where them being a douchebag is kind of actually very funny. Because it feels like the show's still trying to get me to care about Bud. Like, I feel like I'm supposed to care about what he's going through in this episode, and I just don't. Again, it's just barely funny enough to still be a 3. Like, it's still a fine episode overall, but seriously, fuck Bud. He's not my buddy. They make a Peanuts reference, aka Charlie Brown reference. And that was the coolest part of the episode, because I really do be liking all that. 5. Groundhog Day. Latinos become the majority race, upsetting Bud. Because that's our Bud. He's a racist. That being said, I actually like this episode. It's a 4 out of 5. Why do I like this one compared to the other ones? Well, 2 things. 1, I thought the jokes were a little bit funnier. It's still the casual Bordertown style of being very ADHD. A lot of the jokes still being very random and just next scene, whatever random thing you're doing is just completely gone. But to be quite blunt, I thought a lot of it actually worked this time, or at least it was more of a hit ratio compared to the past 4 episodes. And I actually kind of liked the story. In this episode, we find out that Bud doesn't really like doing the dirty. That's just not who he is, and it's part of it is because of his dad. So Bud has to get his day working thanks to Dr. Love, aka just Ernesto. It's Ernesto. He's Dr. Love. I found the scenes with Ernesto teaching Bud though to be some of the funnier ones, like Bud's version of trash talking, and then when he becomes attractive, Ernesto's wife Maria ending up kind of going to him like it's just like a black hole or something of romance, and she has to go to him, and Ernesto has to try pulling her out. Like, it's genuinely not that unfunny. It's genuinely decent. And then when that all fails, Bud and JC now feeling like since Latinos are more of the majority race, he starts to feel bad for the white people. They make a white people renovation, and that's just a funny premise to me. They don't even do a great job with that. I just find the idea funny enough to kind of carry a little bit. And of course, by then everything was back to normal. So it all works out in the end. But for what it's worth, it was a funny episode. Bud and Janice do fuck by the end. So and that gave me the confidence to give it a 4 out of 5. This was a good episode. Also, the name of the episode is Groundhog Day, and that's one of my favorite movies of all time. So that plays a part in it too. Well, not really, but it sounds kind of cool, hopefully, when I say that. 6. JC strikes. JC works for Ernesto and goes on strike after a day. Meanwhile, Bud gets an ostrich as a spirit animal. After that good one, we go back to the show's usual average quality, 3 out of 5. The A plot, not Ernesto, JC is lazy, but tries to act like he cares about causes. Guy is kind of just unlikable. I did like the ending when he genuinely tried to stick up for Ernesto. Seeing a character in the show act genuinely nice about some stupid joke, making them look like a douchebag, is refreshing. It gets me to somewhat care about what's going on in the episode, even after like some stupid joke. The Bud plot was the weaker part, though, somehow, considering I wasn't already loving the JC stuff. Again, I'm sorry to keep comparing it to Family Guy, but again, Peter has animals all the time. That's just like how Peter Griffin does. So seeing Bud Buchwald get an ostrich isn't the funniest premise in the world. And it barely even has a storyline. It's just them doing stuff. His little daughter, Gert, who's just like a Honey Boo Boo parody, she gets upset about Bud hanging out with the ostrich. So she makes him go away, only for the next scene of this plot line to have Bud and the ostrich get reunited again. But it's okay, she kills him by the end, and Bud just doesn't care, I guess, because Bud's like a psychopath. Or he's just too mentally disabled to even recognize that the ostrich is going to be there next time. Who even knows? Yeah, this is a pretty mid episode. 7, drug lord. Buddy gets involved with a drug dealer. Meanwhile, Gert gets a crush on said drug dealer. 3 out of 5. I haven't mentioned him yet, but there's a recurring side character who is just a drug lord. He's just this evil dude. He has a really ugly looking henchman, which I guess as any time to say now. In terms of the art style, I can see why some people don't like it, but I actually kind of like the art style. It's one of the show's biggest saving graces. It looks distinct, and I kind of like how some of the background characters just don't even have eyes; they have little lines. Looks lazy, but it's actually kind of cool in my opinion. It's different. Not this henchman dude, though. He looks ugly AF. And we see him for a couple of different episodes. So we have to stare at this ugly-ass dude a lot. Or at least more than we should. Anyway, this is just Bud being too stupid to realize that he's a drug lord. Very boring. And Gert having a crush on him is barely even a factor. So, fucking who cares? Bottom of the list. Barely even worth mentioning. At least the other episodes were at least slightly funnier. Again, at this point, you're really just about what episode has the best jokes, because again, the plots are so like they don't. It feels like the show doesn't even care about its own plot lines. It feels like they had to do a chore to make a plot line, and then like the fun part for them at least was making all types of random jokes surrounding it, which isn't the worst thing ever. But it causes, but when the characters themselves aren't that likable or interesting, it makes it kind of difficult to really even give a fuck when like you're spending every scene has to have some stupid joke that's only sometimes funny. Gonna take a quick drink break because Bordertown just be triggering me. It's like, oh, town, why are you bordering so hard? Bimmy, how are you? What's your thoughts on Bordertown so far? Well, I kind of just took a nap because this show is like running a marathon with how quickly it is, how quickly fast paced it is. You know what I mean? Man, that's actually a really smart idea. It's a really smart comeback, actually. That's kind of good. Oh, thanks, dude. I've been working on it. I'm working on my comebacks. You know what? Go take that nap. You deserved it, Bimmy. Second half, let's go. 8. Santa Ana wins. The Santa Ana wins happen while Bud meets a Mexican version of himself. Sanford gets hooked on a new energy drink, and Ernesto deals with a devil leaf. Okay, this sounds very cluttered. Even for a show like this, it's usually very all over the place joke-wise. But now when that's story-wise, obviously it's a 4 out of 5 and the best episode so far. Wait, what? Yeah, no, I like this episode. Surprisingly, them doing so many different plot lines and Having all this stuff happen means there's less room for the episode to get sidetracked with stupid jokes that I don't really like that much. And plus, each of the plot lines I thought were decent in some way. The Bud one was probably my least favorite. Again, the fact he's so casual about the Mexican version of himself taking things over, like he doesn't care at all. I know it's like a little funny, sure. It did get a small laugh out of me before instantly realizing, oh wait, Bud really is just that bad of a person that he just doesn't care about his family. Let's this Mexican version of himself just take them away. I'm really not liking this guy, am I? But I guess if that's just how his character is, I guess I get used to that. And it's still a little funny how it was genuinely funny how the Mexican version of Bud didn't even want to be there either. So they both just go to Mexico before Bud gets deported back to Mexifornia. Those two plots were better though. I haven't been bringing them up yet, but Sanford, Bud's oldest child and his only son, is my favorite character on the show. Well, not because he's plot relevant, but because surprisingly he gets like the best jokes. I don't even know why his character isn't interesting. He's just a loser. He's just a loser adult man still living with his parents. There's just for some reason they give him the best jokes. Maybe it's because he's already such a random weird character that like him doing random weird things makes more sense because like that's already his character. That's my best guess because genuinely I don't know, but but actually kind of like his character and finally giving him a storyline was nice. It was decently funny for what it was. And Ernesto fighting a devil leaf because he's a gardener, that's his job. That was fun too. Well, surprisingly good episode. I'm shocked by how much I liked this one. Still nothing above like a 7 out of 10 if I was doing a 10 system instead of a 5 system, but luckily I do a 5 system, so looking like a 4 out of 5 is way more impressive than like a 7 out of 10. No? Genuinely good episode though. If there's one episode I recommend, it's this one. 9. Heart attack. When Gert gets a heart attack, Bud tries to get money for the surgery. Meanwhile, Pepito, Ernesto's little son, like he's a little kid, gets put on meds. Another 4 out of 5. This one I have less to say on why I got a good rating. I just found it funny. One of the funnier ones so far. Bud kind of cares about Gert. I guess he hates his family and is weirdly suicidal in several different episodes. But he does care about his daughter a little bit, I guess. Even if it's probably for self-centered reasons, but him at least kind of trying to get her, like some money for the surgery is somewhat nice. One of the better things this dumbass has done throughout the show, which I know isn't saying much because 13 episodes, but you get the point. The Pepito B plot was solid as well. Singer Nesto and Maria trying to put him on meds and all that. It's kind of just a commentary on like how you even if a child has like ADHD, you still shouldn't put them on meds. You should do like a better way of trying to teach them and all that. Well, okay, they don't really say that last part, but I guess for a show as active and wild as Bordertown, I guess it makes sense why they'd give this statement. Sorry, almost I was going to burp there. But yeah, overall, just a funny episode. This is a decently funny episode, which, hey, for the show, makes a good episode in my book. I actually liked watching this one and wouldn't mind rewatching it, which to me is a sign of a 4 out of 5. 10. Wildfire. After Ernesto saves Bud from a wildfire, Bud becomes his best friend. Meanwhile, JC and Becky try dating others. I'm going to be short with this one. 3 out of 5. Just a worse version of the Simpsons episode Homer Saves Flanders. Homer Loves Flanders, my bad. And okay, Simpsons is my favorite show of all time. So obviously any show trying to copy that Simpsons style, already it's going to be a little weird for me. But literally, this is just a worse version of that episode. Also, Simpsons was able to wait until season 5 before doing that episode. We're still on episode 10. If this show got more seasons, it'd look kind of weird that back at season 1 they did the storyline of Bud finally liking Ernesto after all these episodes. All these 9 episodes beforehand. Still, it's fine enough, I guess. It's proof that even when you're trying to be nice, Bud is just too stupid to function like a normal human being. But I guess none of the characters in the show, or at least most of them, can't act like functioning human beings. So I guess it's not that weird in this universe. So still, though, it's whatever. The Becky JCB plot also felt very tacked on. Like they just needed a way to get more runtime in, so just made up a small little B plot. But I guess they're the right ones for each other until the ending joke reveals that Becky was still dating this other Mexican dude. But we don't get a follow up on that because it's Bordertown and all these random jokes about characters just being dicks to each other is just fine, I guess. I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself. It's just difficult to say new things on these episodes because they all feel so samey. So many of these jokes you could put in different episodes and it wouldn't feel out of place because the jokes themselves are rarely tied to the storylines. But whatever, episode itself is mid. 11. La Fiesta Nosa Show. I probably butchered that. I'm sorry. Buddy becomes loved by Mexicans after showing up on a Mexican variety show. 2 out of 5. Mediocre. Didn't care for it. Painfully boring and unfunny. Even more so than usual. Bud is a racist, so putting him on a Mexican show is very funny. And we get that stupid drug lord character back. And apparently he doesn't remember Bud, even though episode 7 was all about them being friends, I guess. It's one of those shows where continuity is non-existent, so I guess I don't know what else I was expecting. Still mediocre, didn't care for it at all. 12. American Doll. Bud gets Gert an expensive doll, so Janice has to be a maid for Ernesto. 2 out of 5. You want more proof that I'm not just using the fact that I watched the show as a kid to like boost nostalgia points or anything. I remember this one a lot. This is one I used to watch all the time, and I still gave it a 2 out of 5, proving that, yeah, it just doesn't hold up that well. The commentary for the Gert stuff is very superficial. It's just, yeah, companies do like targeting little kids for this type of thing. It's annoying and sad that they do it, but that's just how it is. I did like Gert giving Becky the doll, though. That was a surprisingly sweet moment. They didn't even undercut it with like a dumb joke or anything. They just let the sweet moment happen. Genuinely shocked by that. Already that scene made me almost want to give it a 3, but then I realized, oh wait, most of it was just regular Bordertown madness. So, and Janice being a maid is like nothing. It's more so about Bud trying to get her fired than her actually just being a maid. So yeah, overall mediocre episode. Would not recommend. Very boring. Alrighty, do we end with a Bordertown banger? With 13, we got Viva Coyote. Bud tries getting El Coyote so he won't get fired. Meanwhile, Louise, that's Ernesto's son, who's been a little background character until this very episode, tries acting more Mexican to impress a waitress. So, fine episode, a 3 out of 5. Better than the last 2, but that's not saying much because it's Bordertown. Okay, so El Coyote, in the beginning of the episode, like the pre-intro bit, it's kind of just this Looney Tunes-esque thing where Bud always tries to get El Coyote. They've been consistently fine enough scenes, but not anything like extremely worthwhile. At least not enough to mention up until now. But making the season finale around him was actually a clever idea. It makes sense. I mean, he's been a running bit throughout the season. Want to end the season with focusing more on that. So in that regards, it's fine. It just wasn't that funny or interesting. I guess Ernesto getting a backstory with El Coyote was kind of cool. Never really saw Ernesto's thoughts on El Coyote before, so that was kind of cool. And we even get to see how Ernesto and Maria met, so that's kind of cute, actually. Getting a little love story between them. Kind of sad Bud and Janice never got their love story, but considering Janice just cheats on Bud anyway, and Bud hates his family, I guess I don't want to see their love story anyway. Because it's probably just like some bar or something. Overall, though, mid-tier episode. I didn't care for this one. We end the show with a pretty painfully average episode, which in a way really represents the show. Alrighty, for the ratings. For the 2 out of 5s, we got El Fiesta Nosa Show and American Doll. And then the overall majority, 3 out of 5s. The only one not being in the top 10 is Drug Lord. Then we got High School Football, Border Wall, Viva Coyote, Wildfire, JC Strikes, and both Megachurch and The Engagement sneak it into the top 5s, being 3 out of 5. So And then top three, the only three episodes I actually liked watching, and even then they aren't like anything amazing. We got Heart Attack, Groundhog Day, and Santa Ana Wins was, to me, clearly the standout best episode. But comedy subjective, so maybe to you guys it's like, nah, fam. That one was a 1 out of 5. And that American Doll one was peak fiction. What are you talking about? They had a Peter Griffin cameo. How do you even forget about that? Now I'm like, sorry, I forgot the show was produced by Seth MacFarlane, even though it's not really one of his shows. But yeah, I didn't really like Bordertown, obviously. It has the same problem I have of like a middle season Family Guy, where all the characters are just kind of assholes, but not in a funny, it's always sunny way, but in an annoying, why trying to teach me stuff? I don't, your characters are all awful people kind of way. That being said, I wouldn't be against a season 2, or at least maybe a revision of the show. I kind of like the idea of a show being about two families instead of just like the one, or and them having like some kind of dynamic. Well, I didn't think the execution was all that good. The general premise for Bordertown isn't a bad one, so it's really upsetting to me that the show wasn't that good. Hopefully, someday another version of Bordertown or something like that can come up. This show clearly has a fan base. I mean, literally earlier today, I watched a video about someone who clearly wanted a season 2, but was very passionate for it. So I don't know. Maybe Bordertown season 2 will happen someday. Which, hey, you know what? I'm not even completely against it because, again, the show is fine enough. I guess it's just not my type of comedy. I prefer something a bit more character focused. So a show like this that feels mostly like random skits tied together with a very forced and not that good plot, it just isn't my type of comedy. With that, thank you guys for watching. I am very glad I revisited the show though, because it was something I watched a lot as a kid for some reason. Probably because it was very similar to Family Guy. And with that, I'll see you guys next time.